The sound of boots crunching against wet gravel was the only noise, as two long files of men snaked their way through the ink-black Kashmiri night. Captain A.M. Bahadur Gurung crouched at the front of the column, scanning the ridge line of Sanjoi Top. Behind him were two companies of the 3rd 8th Gorkha Rifles. Somewhere up there, beyond the steep crags, machine guns waited. Their objective, Sanjoi Top, a heavily fortified Pakistani position that dominated the river valley, had become the staging ground for cross-border incursions. The success of the mission would decide whether the bridges on the Kishan Ganga remained under enemy control or were destroyed. Earlier attempts had failed. An earlier night raid had descended into chaos when Pakistani troops on the Sanjoi right opened fire. Confused and unaware of the terrain, Gurung's men had to fall back. They'd lost an opportunity, and worse, tipped off the enemy. But tonight was different. The plan had changed. They would hit from the east this time, climbing the deadly narrow ridge only after taking Sanjoi right. Another company would create a diversion from the north, giving Gurung and his men a shot at the summit. They reached the base of Sanjoi right just before midnight. Gurung raised a clenched fist, then all hell broke loose. Pakistani sentries spotted the advance, shouting in Urdu and firing wildly, but the Gorkhas surged forward. Amid a thunder of grenades and rifle cracks, Lieutenant Lalit Roy and Lieutenant Farke led their men into the enemy trenches. It was over in minutes. Sanjoi right fell with minimal resistance, but the real fight lay above. The ridge to Sanjoi Top was a nightmare, a sheer spine of rock barely wide enough for one man at a time, and every inch watched by enemy machine gunners. Artillery thumped from behind, echoing across the slopes, but it wasn't enough. Pinned down halfway up, Gurung's men hugged the earth, unable to advance. Then, without warning, a figure broke cover. Lance Nayak Raj Bahadur Gurung sprinted forward, dragging Subedar Man Bahadur Gurung with him. As bullets tore through the air, the two made for a pine tree just meters from the enemy bunker. Raj Bahadur slung his rifle and climbed. In the eerie moonlight, he was a silent shadow. He reached the top, lobbed 2 grenades into the bunker, and dropped in after them. A second later, there was a muffled blast, then silence. The machine gun was dead. Encouraged and rallied, the Gorkhas surged forward. More grenades flew. Bayonets gleamed in the dark. By 0130 hours, the last of the Pakistani defenders on Sanjoi Top had been driven out or killed after an hour-long brutal hand-to-hand struggle. Major S.B. Verma had fallen in the melee along with 13 others, but the peak was theirs. By dawn, Sanjoi Lower 2 was cleared. The enemy had fled in haste, abandoning supplies, weapons, and in one bunker, a pair of women's sandals. Even in war, human stories lingered, but the fight wasn't over. On the morning of 5th of September, Pakistani forces counterattacked. Shells landed around Sanjoi Top. Mortars burst among the rocks. The Gorkhas, exhausted but resolute, repelled the assault. 5 Pakistani dead were found strewn near the captured positions, one an officer. For their bravery, Nayak Raj Bahadur Gurung, Subedar Man Bahadur Gurung were awarded the Veer Chakra. Major Verma, who had fallen in the fray, and Rifleman Bhakt Kishore Gurung, who died repelling the counterattack, were awarded the Veer Chakra and the Sena Medal posthumously. The operation could have ended there, but it didn't. On the morning of 11 September, Captain A.M. Bahadur alerted Delta Company again, this time toward Mirpur. The final objective, a bridge across the Kishan Ganga Nadi. By 10:30 hours, they were engaged in fierce fighting with a Pakistani picket guarding the bridge. The battle was close quarters and savage. Naib Subedar Karbir Gurung and 4 others were killed. Second Lieutenant Farke was wounded, as were 6 more. The bridge remained in Indian hands, but it wouldn't last. At 0400 hours the next morning, in a desperate act, The retreating enemy blew up the bridge themselves, cutting off any chance of Indian forces crossing over and denying themselves the ground they'd lost. In the silence that followed, Captain Goering sat alone on a boulder above the river. Smoke drifted in the morning mist. He looked at the shattered concrete of the bridge, then at the rising sun. They had done their job, and in the hills of Sanjoi, in the ravines of Mirpur, and in the stories they would carry home, the Gorkhas had etched a new chapter of bravery, sacrifice, and victory.